And coming up today on the Marty Mariner Show. Well, today we've got one of the OGs from the very first year of the Central Coast Mariners. Dean Heffernan is joining us for a bit of a chat, bit of a chinwag, bit of a conversation about those early years of the Central Coast Mariners. You can't forget Heff flying down the left-hand side of the field. Quite prolific goal scorer too. 10 goals in 65 games. Not bad for a left fullback. We'll talk to him about that. We'll also talk to him about his journeys overseas to China, to Germany and to England. A couple of Socceroos appearances in there. And now currently coaching. We'll talk to him about his coaching journey, which has led him back to the Central Coast. Looking forward to catching up with Heff very, very shortly. But what a massive night it was on the Central Coast here last Saturday night when we played Melbourne City. Fair bit happened on that night, so maybe it's time for a few Mariners minutes. Yes, Saturday night at the Industry Group Stadium, over 10,500 spectators got to witness, in my opinion, one of the games of the season. Would have been an absolute classic if you were a neutral. If you're a Melbourne City or Central Coast Mariners fan, you probably had a higher heart rate than you probably would have wished. But what an absolute cracker of a game it was. 1-1 the result. And it's our latest golden boot. Josh Nisbet can't stop scoring. What's that, 2 in as many games or so just now? In the 78th minute of the game, drew us level. Chances galore. It was such an open game. And, an absolute cracker between two of the real contenders this year. Obviously, Melbourne City just wrapping up first spot. So congratulations to them. But the point was good enough for the Mariners to secure a spot in the final series again this year. Once again, proving all those doubters wrong, that we won't be making semi-final football. Congratulations to Monty Serge and all of the club who do just such a fantastic job. It's an achievement to make it, but I am sure the chapter on this season has not finished yet. A big F3 derby coming up this weekend, and the boys still pushing to try and grab that elusive second spot, which would just be such a fantastic thing for the club. So well done, everybody. Semi-finals, here we come again. Love a good final series, and long may continue our successes when it comes to the F3 derby this weekend. And of course, Saturday night was also the 11th year of Pink Round, where the players wore their pink shirts, all in aid of the Cancer Council Central Coast. Spectators were wearing their pink shirts, their pink hats, their pink tutus. There was all sorts going on in the crowd. It is always such a great night here on the Central Coast. Congratulations to all concerned with the organisation. Star 104.5 jumping on board too. Shirt sponsors for the night. Did some great stuff at halftime. It's a really great night, and I'm glad that we had well over 10,000 people there to witness it. The Pink Round is such an important round, not only just for the Cancer Council when it comes to fundraising, but for the club in general. I know it's always enjoyed by those who are involved all around it, and long may that continue as well. And while we're giving shout-outs, a massive shout-out to Cooper Mielenkamp, yes, the son of CEO Sean, who had his blonde hair, his locks, all cut, all for the in aid of the Bears of Hope charity that do such amazing work when it comes to supporting families. Not only did he get his hair cut, but he did it in the middle of the stadium with the crowd all present. What an absolute champion. I know he raised a fair bit of coin for the Bears of Hope organisation, which I'm sure we can all continue to do. So good on you, Cooper. Great job, mate. And good luck with the regrowth, and grow back in time for a game for next year. And while we're giving shout-outs, how could we not give a shout-out to Sharon and Wayne, the boots for the Cook Islands, just going from strength to strength. These guys have just been, they've been out the front of every home game this year with the box full of boots, people dropping them all in. And I saw a video after, actually, from Saturday night with the amount of boots they collected. It's just absolutely a phenomenal job that these guys have done. We've had them on the show a few times. We will definitely have them on the show again very, very shortly to sort of wrap up and see how it has all gone. But they are still collecting, so make sure you get in contact with them to unload those boots that are just sitting on the side. You bought new boots for this season. There's going to be a pair or two, I'm sure, that are just sitting there taking up space. Let's put them to good use and give them to Sharon and Wayne to take over to the Cook Islands, where I'm sure they will be greatly appreciated. So good job, guys. Look forward to catching up with you soon. And welcome back to the Marty Mariner Show. And as I said in the introduction, we've got one of the originals, the first year Central Coast Mariners, Dean Heffernan, joining us today. How are you, mate?
Good, Marty. Thanks for having me, mate. And sorry for making you wait.
That's all right, mate. It's well worth the wait to talk to the original guys who were pulling on the yellow and blue in the first year. Mate, I've got to ask you, as I ask every single player who comes on, were you always going to be a professional footballer?
Oh, no, definitely not. Definitely not. I was a bit of a late starter. So it's obviously it's something that I wanted to do and I wanted to be. But yeah, my path was just kind of a little bit different to most players nowadays. Probably similar to kind of like a Matty Simon. I had a job. I was going to uni. Was doing a little bit of travel and stuff like that as well. So it was a different pathway, but look, yeah, I wouldn't change it for the world.
Absolutely. Well, it's not like it hasn't turned out too badly at all, too. Your first professional contract was that Wollongong? Your first contract?
Yeah, so back in the old NSL.
Yeah.
So I was going to uni down in Wollongong and playing for a local team called Bulli.
Yep.
And managed to get myself a contract with the Wolves. So it was part-time. Wollongong Wolves, I think we trained 2 or 3 times a week.
Yep.
Some of the other clubs were full-time in that period of the old NSL. But it was an awesome starting point.
Yeah. And how did it feel actually to sort of switch into that getting paid to play kind of role?
Yeah, it was all right. So it was a funny one because I grew up in the Sutherland Shire. So, um, there's opportunities to go where there's a little bit of cash to play football. I had a couple of friends who were playing in the Wollongong or the Illawarra Premier League, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And it just worked out well. It was a good fit. I was going to uni there anyway.
Yeah.
I'd do all my classes on a Tuesday and a Thursday and
Yeah.
and head straight to training. So we're getting a little bit of money down there.
Yeah.
And when I signed for Wollongong, it wasn't a great deal, but back in those days, you would get paid for appearance and win bonuses and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's where you would get your money. As long as you're on the bench and the team did all right, it was okay.
You were fine. Got you through your studies, which always a bit of an expense, as we all know that. And I think then you moved on to was it Sydney United, and then you had a run at Sutherland as well for a little while.
Yeah, so Sutherland was my junior club.
Yeah.
So I played there obviously through under 11s to 16s, and then from under 16s to 21As we call it. But I was kind of just playing local football with friends, and then I went on that journey down into the Illawarra Premier League, and that took me over to Sydney United in that second season. I don't know why I left Wollongong Wolves, to be honest. It was a bit more money, and you're a young player. You don't really, and one of my best mates was at Sydney United as well, so that had a lot to do with it. There was a bit of changes going on at Wollongong, but I kind of look back at that one and I think, if I just had stayed at Wollongong, but then again, who knows what could have happened. So it was a good time at Sydney United. Met a lot of good people. Such a good club with great culture and same people running it. It was a good time there. But I had a better time at Wollongong the year before.
Oh, absolutely. And so how did the journey go from there to being a Central Coast Mariner?
Yeah, it's a funny one. I somehow ended up on a trip to China. So it was around the time when SARS was happening in China, and South Melbourne were meant to go on a trip, and that got delayed and didn't happen for a couple of seasons. But apparently, they still had a contract and still had to go over and play some games there. So they kind of just took half the South Melbourne team and then just players that were keen to go for a trip to China and play a few games of football. And I ended up on the trip with one of my best mates who was at Sydney United. The reason why I went over to Sydney United, and Alex Tobin was on the trip as well. And managed to get a few games and did okay there. Not that I thought it meant anything, but I've spoken to Laurie a few times, and apparently that trip carried a fair bit of weight
Right.
with just Alex Tobin and getting me the start because they were already kind of watching.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then next thing I knew, I was at the Mariners and moving to Terrigal.
Yeah, and there's a lot worse places in the world to be living in than Terrigal on the Central Coast, that's for sure. So
That's
that original time, I mean, I've spoken to Quasi and a few of the boys about that initial time when the players coming in from a few different places and Laurie getting everyone together. What was your memories of those initial meetups and initial training sessions? How did it all feel like it was shaping up for you blokes?
just felt good from the start. I don't know. I just always remember driving into Gosford. I'd speak to my kids about it every time we drive past the stadium. There's always just a good feeling when you drove past there. And that was from the first day I came to Gosford.
Yep.
And I remember the day I signed with Alex Wilkinson and Matt Osman up at Mingara Club.
Nice. Yep.
We're all just so young. And yeah, the good thing was we all came from different areas
Yep.
and that was probably a key to our success that, we all hung out off the field and build those relationships as well. And I think it really, carried us on throughout the year because we had some tough times that year. I'll never forget, we lost at home to Adelaide 2-0.
Yep.
I can remember every result, everything but I just remember we're at the bottom of Mingara Club doing a video session and it went for hours, honestly. And a few people got called out and it was a rough couple of hours. And I think that's when we went on a 13 game unbeaten
Nice.
streak, maybe something like that, like unbeaten. So not 13 wins, but just unbeaten.
Unbeaten, yeah.
It was such a good run. And it's those moments that, turn a season. And Laurie and Fergie and Tobes weren't afraid to tell us the truth. And, a lot of players say, oh, tell me the truth. That's how I like to be coached. But they don't like to hear it sometimes.
Exactly.
And lucky for our group, we were all grown-ups and we were able to take it on board. And it obviously did the trick. So yeah, always a good feeling on the Central Coast, and that's why I'm here raising my family.
Absolutely, and I guess too those in those early years. I mean, and I've again spoken to the other fellas about it, but you guys came from different clubs, maybe smaller clubs. There was the NPL kind of thing, the local scene, but then all of a sudden you're on the Central Coast and you're at the shopping centres with kids wanting autographs and all this. It was exploding on the coast. The Mariners were just everywhere. What was that like for someone like yourself to be like, oh, hang on a minute, where's all this come from?
Yeah, it was a shock, honestly. It just was. It just grew and grew. It all coincided with that Adelaide loss, I guess, and it must have been around November, December, and the New Year's Eve game was pretty special. From memory, I think we won 4-1. And we just kind of kicked on from there. And the crowds just got bigger and bigger every home game. And obviously having success helps that. I'd love to see bigger crowds now. I think this is some of the best football I've seen the Mariners ever play. Yeah. And teams find it really, really difficult to play against the Mariners. And it's kind of like Brisbane Roar when they were so good a few years back and the stands were empty. And when Ange was there and it was like you're missing out. And, I think that's what it's like now, but hopefully we get bigger crowds for the team heading into finals now. But the game's huge. Moving back here, one of the big things I noticed was no one's wearing Quicksilver shirts and Billabong shirts as much anymore. They're all in football shirts, Messi, Ronaldo, the odd Mariners jersey. So, it's pretty cool how it's changed the culture on the coast a bit, yeah.
Oh, no, absolutely. And as I said, for someone who's mad into football before the Mariners turned up, it was just this. Someone said it was a breath of fresh air, and I refer to it more as a tornado because it just sort of came in, and we'd see you guys at Erin Affair and hanging, and there'd be just kids just coming up and saying g'day, and you guys were always, there was always that relationship between you guys and the fans. You were never too big, never too busy. I mean, I'm sure there was times it was a pain in the ass if you're trying to get your shopping done, but there was always that good relationship going on, and it just established those initial years. Established the club, right? The character that it's got today.
Yeah, 100%. And that all comes from the top. That came from Laurie. How he was with the community, and how focused he was on, building the Mariners from the community and grassroots football, and getting out of clubs every Tuesday night. And we owed that to the community. If we want you guys to come and watch us play,
Yeah.
then we needed to come out to you guys and engage with everyone that plays football on the coast, and try and get you guys to games. And when you see someone like Laurie putting so much time and effort into every single person that comes to say hello, and we just follow what the leader's doing, really.
No, absolute legend, Mr. McKenna, that is for sure. Mate, I think it was about 65 appearances for the Mariners, somewhere around there, about 10 goals. From left back, was there ever a time in your early career where they moved you forward because you had that eye for goal? Was there ever a time where you played further forward in any other side?
Yeah, like most of my career, I was kind of more further forward up the
Further forward,
pitch.
yeah.
Kind of the higher the level got, the further back I got hidden away.
Right.
The way the game's changed now, and I say this to my kids, I say, the best attackers are at the back now. They're setting up the plays and keeping the ball and progressing it up the pitch, and the best defenders are at the front. They'll say to me, I'll say to them, "Who's the best defender in the world at the moment?" And they'll name some defenders. I think it's Haaland.
Yep.
The way he defends at the front and presses and sets traps, and obviously, but that's the game, right? So, in my time, I ended up at the back as a defender, and when I moved to left back, that was the first time I played left back in a 4-4-2, and having someone like Damian Brown in front of me and Andrew Clark inside as the left centre back. I've got two of the most experienced guys in the league. Some days Clarky would just say, "Yeah, it was good," and Clarky would just say, "Run, you go, I'll cover you. You go whenever you want." And that made it pretty easy to kind of have that confidence. And Brownie liked to come inside and get on the ball. He was really comfortable on the ball and really technical. So it was just perfect for a player like myself who like to get up and down the line.
Absolutely. And so as the season went on, as you said, an unbeaten run, ended up in the grand final. There we were on the day playing Sydney, David and Goliath. It was all billed as this little fellas and the big city team. For you guys, you're sitting in the sheds. Was there any realizations like, bloody hell, we're in the grand final? Was there a realization that sort of hit on the day, or was it, we're here, this is where we should be?
Yeah, we definitely had the belief that we should have been there.
Yep.
If anything, for me, I probably didn't realize how big it was going to be. I don't think any of us did.
No.
Unless they'd played in NSL grand finals in Perth or something like that. They were quite big, just in those recent years I'm talking about, leading into the A-League. But yeah, look, we 100% had belief that, we deserved to be there and we should have been there. We won so many games that we needed to win under pressure. And I'll never forget that first half. We had them on a rack.
Absolutely.
We really did. We had so many chances, and you could see it in their faces that they were struggling at halftime. Just, it was one of those things you didn't want the halftime break to come.
Yep.
It kind of changed it a little bit because the game just flipped on its head, and well done to them.
So finish up at the Mariners, and you spent some time overseas in Germany and in England. What was the experience like playing over there?
Yeah, it was an eye-opener for sure. That was probably, so Andre Gumprecht obviously got myself and Michael Beecham the trial at Nuremberg.
Yep.
And we went over there for 10 days, and it was awesome. It was a great experience. You could see the level was a bit different. We're very lucky here to have the facilities we had. I remember the first day, we just trained in mud for the first couple of days, like dried mud. It was just like, obviously the level was still quite high. It was one of those trials where everything just went right as well. I remember doing some crossing and finishing, and every single cross was on the money, and in the possession games, every pass. It was just, it worked out well.
It felt good.
They'll probably a bit disappointed when I got back there, but trial was really good. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that was great. We obviously went on to win the German Pokal Cup or the
Yep.
German FA Cup.
FA Cup, yep.
So that was in front of a massive crowd in Berlin, and so that was an experience to be able to be there, part of the team. And I was in the stands, obviously, but you're still there as part of the team, and
Yep.
just to experience what it's like in that kind of atmosphere.
Yep.
And then, I think it was 2010, went to Huddersfield.
Yep.
And a friend of mine now, Matthew Crow, had a bit to do with that deal with his agent at the time that helped out. And I was kind of on the cusp of the national team. I just come back from the broken leg and everything like that.
Yep.
And the word was out that you needed to be overseas if you wanted to be a chance for the World Cup in 2010.
Yep.
Yeah, so I got that move to Huddersfield, and that was a great experience as well. It was League One, but it was tough, really tough. Saturday, Tuesday games, and there were some big clubs in League One that year. There was Norwich and Leeds, Charlton, Southampton, and all the same players. Like majority of them went through, and they're playing Premier League 2 years later. So it was a tough league. It was really cool, good experience.
I'm sure the weather would have been great in Huddersfield as well. Beautiful part of the world.
Snow, plenty of snow, plenty of ice. Yeah.
I've tried talking because I didn't come out to Australia until I was 12, but I do remember playing as a junior in snow and trying to explain to people what that's like. And slide tackles are something you definitely want to avoid, right?
Yeah, it depends how icy it is, but there was one night. Where were we? It was one of those little clubs in Liverpool.
Yeah,
I remember what it's called.
Not Everton.
No, not Everton. Begins with a T. I can't. There was an Aussie guy that played there, Gareth Edds.
Okay.
Tranmere. Is it Tranmere?
Tranmere, yeah.
Tranmere Rovers.
Yeah.
We're playing there, and they had to stop the game. The snow was just coming down, and changed it to the fluoro orange footballs and all that kind of stuff. So I was just like, get me out of here. Get me back to the Central Coast.
I want the palm trees back. This is just not working for me.
Get me the beach. Yeah, because I left just before the end of the transfer window.
Yeah.
So it was like late January.
Yeah.
And my first game was in the snow, 5 days later. Played 90 minutes. It's like, just do it.
That's terrible.
Do it. Yeah. It's funny.
I know you spent some time, but you also spent some time over in China as well.
Yeah, that was good fun. I enjoyed China. Yeah, had a good coach, good Chinese players, really good guys, and translator to help and all that kind of stuff. It's funny, in China you get a translator, a driver, you get really looked after.
Nice.
In Germany, you just sit there and they just get one of the young players to translate, and it's different. So the Bundesliga can't get you a translator, but in China they look after you. You got to perform. Obviously, we did well. We're lucky. We had some really good local players.
Yeah.
And I remember. Was it the Asian Cup? What year was that? 2000 that we won it. The Socceroos.
Good question.
2014, maybe.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
So
if it's more than 3 weeks,
so 4 years. Yeah. So like 4 years later,
around there,
and my phone rings, I answer it, and it's a Chinese guy.
Yeah.
Looking to me in English, and four of the players were now in the national team plus a coach.
Right.
And they wanted to catch up for coffees, and it was really cool. Really cool to see them all, and they turned out to be bloody good footballers as well.
Absolutely.
So,
and that's a good thing about football too. I mean, it's a worldwide game, and getting to visit those other places and be around is also. I mean, it's just all part of the journey, right? So, I mean, and there was a couple of soccer appearances for yourself, and it was in the Asian Cup qualifiers. I think Indonesia and Kuwait, and scored against Kuwait as well. What was that experience like, pulling on the green and gold and putting one in the back of the net as well?
Yeah, so good because, obviously I started a bit later. First year of the Mariners, I was 25, and, it's always a dream, but you don't know if it's possible.
Sure.
And then, next thing you know, you're in Germany and you're getting those letters that you're on I don't know, the waiting list or whatever, if someone drops out that you're in and all that kind of stuff. So you start to kind of think, okay, this is possible. I need to do more. I need to work more. I need to train more. All those kinds of things start going through your head.
Yeah.
And then came back from Germany, re-signed for the Mariners for a few years and got into the Argentina squad that played down at the MCG. Didn't get on, but I think Pim took over at that time, and I was playing well, but then that's when the leg break and everything happened. So I had to wait. I had to wait a fair while, and I was lucky enough to get a chance in Indonesia and then Kuwait, and it was amazing. Yeah, definitely the highlight. Scoring that goal, I kind of stole it off Archie Thompson as well. Just had a little lash at it just before he was kicking it, and so awesome, love it, and definitely won't forget it.
I know, absolutely great memories, and just, I mean, obviously we'll talk about your coaching that you're doing now and past, but when on the journey did coaching come to you? Was it something as a player you always thought, I want to be a coach? Was there a time in your playing career where you thought, I think I could get into this coaching side of things?
Probably not until towards the end of my career, for sure. I just didn't really think about the game enough as a player. And then towards the end, in particular at the Wanderers, it kind of started at Perth as well with Alistair Edwards, and some of the little tips you would get before walking on the field, just be like, oh, that's spot on, and you just kind of start to think about things a little bit differently. Obviously here at the Mariners with Laurie, we had, tactically it was really good. We were always set up to win. That was our thing. We were a team that wanted to win, and I had freedom to play. But the more I went on, that freedom got tied down a little bit as a left back. But when I was at the Wanderers, I started to take notice a bit more and enjoy that side of the game a little bit more. And probably from that, after that, I was interested in it. Yeah.
Went straight through. And I mean, you were coaching at the Wanderers for a while, as you said, with the youth and the women's team for a couple of years. What did you notice outright, the difference between being a player at a club and a coach at a club? The approach on game day, the weeks, I mean, obviously it comes from totally different angles, but what did you notice the most? And the grey hairs.
100%. Look, the biggest difference is definitely the amount of planning that goes into a session. So, I was kind of one of those players who would always be there early, and I'd do my job as best I could and make sure I was prepared. But I wouldn't, you just wouldn't realize how much effort goes into it, how much planning by multiple people in like different fields. You get your sports scientists, your physios. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes just to get that one session for the players. And so that was a big one. And even just planning for a game, planning to travel for an away game, there's so much that goes into it. So that's probably the biggest difference, and appreciation for what has been done for me in the past has grown a lot, because I have an understanding now of what was going on.
Yeah. And did you find yourself at the start sort of gravitating towards the left back and saying to him, you need to be doing this and all this sort of stuff? Was there kind of like, you've seen me do it, watch it?
Yeah, probably. Like it was, for sure. Because you're comfortable with the defensive structure and a defensive shape. So you kind of, and especially from the Wanderers, that was something we were really, really good at. We started to, just because it was that time. It was 2014, I think, and we're playing against some really tough teams, and I hadn't had to do that, except we did it with Laurie before we went to Kawasaki, won Champions League, and he set us up similar to how Popper would in the Champions League, where they went on to win. And it was good. You're comfortable, and I feel like as a player, you get confidence from being really defensively strong and knowing that everyone's working together as a unit, and I think that builds confidence. If you've got players players running left, right, centre, and you're getting picked off and you're chasing the ball around. It kind of makes it even worse when they get a shot at the end of that. So having a defensive structure and a focus on that has always been a huge point for me. So definitely always helping the fullbacks or centre backs as my first port of call. Yeah,
absolutely. And if the left back doesn't score a few goals in the season, you can sort of be, this is how it's done. Show them at a few training sessions, I'm sure, as well. And of course, speaking of coaching, ended up now at Socceroos United with the Pirates. How did all this come about?
Yeah, it's a funny one. So obviously, I coached and TD'd back when it was CCF, and it was built into CCU, and then went to the Wanderers, and just been working. And my son plays for CCU in the under-13s, and he's a left winger, so he's a lefty, but he's a left winger. And so I got to his first trial game and had my coffee, and I sat back and just a nice, relaxed. I could enjoy my son's football, And sure enough, he walks on the field and he's at centre back. And I'm like, oh, okay, this would be interesting. I've been watching my son closely for a good decade now, and I don't know if he's made too many tackles, so we'll see how this goes. And look, he did well. It's really difficult for players going from 12s to 13s. It's and especially having a big change of position like that as well. So after a few weeks, because I know everyone there, and I just offered to help the back four a little bit for the 13s. Went in and did that and helped the 14s as well. And before I knew it, I was having a coffee with Matty and Stu, the boys up at CCU there, and they wanted me to come in and help full time with the 13s. And so I was more than happy to help out. It's my son's team. I'm there anyway. And the other kids are tops. Top kids. They all love football. So you want to help them, and you want to be involved, and you want to help them learn the game on the big pitch and start to develop their football.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we're doing the big boys as well. How did that feel like?
Yeah, it was good. It was awesome. So it was, and that's what I mean. Yeah, sorry, I stopped talking then. So then I got invited for another coffee last week. And that's why I said to him, I'm not coming for any more coffee, because last week's coffee, I ended up saying yes to the first grade. So look, I'm really happy to be back there. It's a massive opportunity. I love the club. My kids love the club. I love what Matt's done with the football club as well. He doesn't give himself any credit at all, but he's done so much there, worked himself to the bone, and he should be really proud of what they've got going there. And mate, a top team of first grade that have had multiple promotions in the space of 5 years or something like that. So I'm lucky to be there and be able to help them get back on track.
Absolutely. And just purely from a coaching point of view, I mean, normally we get to have the pre-season, we work on certain things. When you've come in and the season's already started, that approach has to change a little bit. How does that work for you as a coach coming in?
Yeah, look, it's fine. I know the players. I was subbing a player on down at Ernie Smith Oval at Southern Districts. And I said to him just before he's going on, so he's 19 now, his name Zach Dudo. And I said, remember that field over there? I was putting you on in the under-15s, 5-6 years ago or whatever. So I know the players, I know the first grade players from when I was there before. So, and then you just kind of, I've been around coaching long enough now where I feel like I've got that a bit more experience. I've had the ups, I've had the downs, that's for sure. So you just lean into that, and the support I've got has been amazing, So yeah, there's it's an exciting opportunity, and you just go back to basics when you take over a team that's been struggling. I caught up with Laurie to chat to him about it. And I told him, gave him a bit of info, and he was spot on. Like with the things that he said, it was absolutely spot on. And I really taken those things into the first couple of weeks,
Yep.
and then put my own kind of how I want to set up defensively and have a good structure.
Yeah.
Because I know on the other side of discipline and on the other side of structure, our goals is a bit of luck. That's where that comes from. So you need to build off that, and we're just making sure that we'll be a really difficult team to come and play against.
No, absolutely. And a big game next Wednesday against, is it Brighton Heat in the Australia Cup? So good to still be in that, and a bit of cup competition to liven things up a bit.
Yeah, 100%. So Brighton's one of the St George Association teams.
Yep.
Apparently there's a few decent players there. So that's at Maidens Brush Oval next Wednesday.
Absolutely.
So that'll be a good one. But we've got this Saturday to get through at home first against Canterbury Bankstown Berries.
Nice.
So Maddie and I watched them play on the internet on NPL TV tonight. So get a bit of a game plan together, and we've got obviously Preston as well.
Yep.
So heaps of experience. Like I said, heaps of support. So much support. So it's good, exciting, and big game Saturday.
Absolutely. And obviously wishing you all the best for that. And mate, just to finalise, we'll talk about them. We started with the Mariners. We'll finish up there as well. Boys are qualified for the semis this year. As you said, playing some great football. Derby this weekend, playing Newcastle. Either they're going to take points off us to stop us getting any chance of second, or we can knock them out of playing semi-final football, which wouldn't that be a shame? Big games for derbies. Just your memories of derbies that you've played. They're always special games to be involved in, right?
Yeah, they are, for sure. One of the best ones was definitely when we were down in the home and away semis in season 3.
Yep.
To get into the grand final. I think Quazza scored one and Sash Petrovsky.
Yep.
To make it 2-0. But didn't we have to win? Was there a third goal? I think there was a third goal that game. Yeah, that was a cracker. That was an awesome game. We had one in the first season as well. We won 1-0 up there. I think Matt Osman might have scored. And then down here, Matt Thompson scored early.
Yep.
And then I managed to get a equaliser for that to put us through. So that's, aside from Socceroos, that was, one of my best memories in football as well. Yeah. Absolutely. So there's been some good ones. And more recently, I don't know. More recently, there's been a few players chop and change across. So hopefully it's a bit feistier.
Well, one of those players, I mean, we've seen some good, a lot of players. Well, no, I won't say a lot of players, but we have had some players going from the Jets to the Mariners of recent times. I mean, I know that it's not a rarity that it's never happened before, but it's they're only just down the road, I suppose, if you're going to make the move. But yeah, just
could you imagine
it's always been
John Hutchinson going to? Could you imagine John Hutchinson going to the Jets?
Not a chance.
Or Matty Simon?
Bad enough when he went to Sydney. That was bad enough. But the less of those, the better. But obviously, wish the boys well in the derby this weekend on Saturday night as well, which will be an absolute cracker, mate. Thanks for stopping by for a chat. Absolutely, really appreciate it. All the best with CCU. We'll definitely be keeping an eye out for them, and I'm sure we'll see you around a few of the games.
Yeah, 100% you will. Good luck to everyone, and thanks very much for having me, mate. Appreciate it.
Catch you soon.
Cheers.
And that is our show for today. A massive thank you once again to Dean Heffernan for giving us some of his time to talk about those early years of the Mariners. I just love hearing the players talk about those early years, with Laurie and getting the essential that the fabric of the club was all sewn within those first meetings of what it was all going to be about, the community and the area that we live in. I could listen to that all day. So we thank Heff for dropping by and obviously wish him all the best with CCU for the season, particularly with that Australia Cup game coming up very, very shortly. If you have not subscribed to the channel, we are almost at 100 subscribers, which is absolutely amazing. I always thought there would be one, which would be me. But we are almost at 100, which is fantastic. It is free to subscribe. Just click on that subscribe button. It just allows us to be able to spread the word that there's a Mariners channel out there, let people know that there's some interviews that they could watch, and it's free. And that is probably the best 2 words I could tell you. It is free, costs you nothing. And if you like the video, obviously, hit that thumbs up button. That always helps as well. And also the notification bell. That'll let you know when the new interviews are going to be coming your way. So that's the show for today. Thank you very much for sticking around till the end. Look forward to seeing you all very, very soon. Go the Mariners in the F3 Derby this weekend. It's been the Marty Mariner Show.